Hello, everyone, once again, and welcome back to Memoirs of the Father. I am your host, the Father, Alex Burnham. I hope that you guys enjoyed our previous episode that I did sit down with Caleb. We are going to do another one just like that following his senior year, the 2018-2019 season. Uh, and it was a little different. It went really long, and I do apologize for that. Just trying to filter and and I cut a tremendous amount of content out of that video. That was the first time we've sat down and tried to do this, and we really just kind of winged it. We really didn't have a plan going into it, and I definitely learned a lot from that experience. I have a lot more structure that I plan to bring to our next sit down, and that I will start to integrate into all my other ones going forward in the future to help make them a little bit more well-rounded and grow and develop. You have to remember, I'm still new at a lot of this. I'm still growing, I'm still evolving, I'm still learning new techniques, new things to talk about. And leading into all that today, I wanted to take a step back. I've been mostly following that chronological set, going through the course of my career, telling stories. With my coaching and stuff, I want to take a step back today and really focus on what a typical season like was with coaching. So understanding these are the things that you do, these are your prep for, your responsibilities and stuff like that, because I think a lot of people don't really have a good insight into what their coaches really do for them and what their coaches go through or what kind of input, or there may be some fresh and young coaches that are out there that want to hear and understand and just to know that there's some relatability into what we all go through. So I do want to break that down into a general sense. That was my plan. Now, I seen some stuff today on social media, just randomly, about, and I feel like I see this stuff about an athlete posting about a coach that killed their passion and killed their love for the sport. And I just want to say, there are a lot of athletes that talk about coaches that killed their passion, but there are not enough coaches that speak out about athletes killing their passion. It's not the losing. It's not the bad days. It's not the practices. It's not the injuries. It's not anything that happens organically in cheerleading. It is not cheerleading itself. It is the things that happen outside that are not organic. The things that someone has to go out of their way and create this problem. It's not something that has to do with cheerleading. It's something as simple as a kid hasn't made their grades, you have to go hunt down a teacher. And it can go all the way to kids doing something that's so young and dumb and stupid that creates a toxic culture, or doing things that create problems on your team that you now have to take your time to deal with. And every single one of these things adds extensive stress onto what a coach already has to go through, because you have to intervene in these things in order to keep your team chemistry going. And these are the things that you don't want to have to deal with to have these hard conversations, because we came here for the sport. We came here for that. I didn't come here to have to deal with these life crises that people are going through. And it's a range of things that happen, that they're creating, that they're negative, that these things are all avoidable. And people don't care about that. That will kill your passion more than anything. And I'm going to talk about that a lot today. I want to talk about what were some experiences that I went through as a coach just in a general year, like the real in-depth look of what that looked like from my perspective as an assistant coach, as a head coach, in high school, in all-star, and break it down. And now my all-star one, that was super simple. I can tell you 100% what that was like. I had one of the easiest jobs in the world. That was my daily activity, was to show up. Because my secretary, the gym manager, all that stuff, she handles everything for me. All the trip arrangements, all the hotel bookings, sending out things to parents. She'd give me waiver forms, order forms, give these to the kids. But she's already emailed their parents and let them know that these forms are supposed to be coming home with these children. And if they don't bring them home, we'll email you a copy. Make sure you bring it back. It needs to be done by this deadline. And if it wasn't in by the deadline, she called the parents. She took care of all that stuff for me. And for all the teams that I coached and for all the teams that everybody coached in the gym. Fantastic. My responsibilities were 100% cheerleading. come to practice, know what you're going to work on, game plan, coach, time management, make sure that everything's good, come to practice. Now, there's a lot of time that I would spend outside of practice. What am I going to do? And there were a lot of things that I like to do that I learned when I was an assistant coach. And I want to talk about those organically through that process to put my team in a position to achieve whatever we're trying to achieve while giving the appropriate amount of effort, nothing less, and ideally nothing more. But not always. That price tag of what it takes and what it costs to be a champion or successful and to chase your goals, it's one thing as an athlete, is an entirely different reflection in a coach. But the standard is still the same. There's still a connection. Everything that we do matters. Every challenge that we face, the coach faces it as well as the athletes. Every single roadblock. It's all linked. But there's two sides to that story. There's two reflections when you've come and been conflicted, when you've faced that. And I want to break that down because it's really easy to understand it as an athlete, but you don't always know what your coach is thinking. You don't always know what your coach is going through, or a lot of times, and it's typically with young people, there's not a lot of external reflection. There's not a lot of what is this person thinking. There's not a lot of the world is still expanding at that age. You're still learning about the world, empathy and understanding and the complexion that goes into decision making and the way that things affect you. You're still learning all those things. So that's what I want to go through today. Just getting hired. Before the coaching season would even start, we have to make sure that all of our stuff is in order. So for me, when I was Kentucky High School Athletic Association, we would have to have everything done, CPR certified. You have to complete that, make sure that's done. That lasts like every 2 years. You have to have it redone and recertified. Fortunately, I have that done at my work, so I never really had to go out of my way to do it. I have to have it for my profession anyway. So it worked out for me. Fantastic. There's also all the training modules that you have to complete from the school, whatever trainings on school policy. There's like violence training, threat training, what to do in these situations. Just going over the protocols of what you're supposed to do, the standards of how you're supposed to keep the gym, how you're supposed to organize practices. You have to go through and do all that training and all those meetings and all that understanding. And you have to do that every single year. Why? It's just good to be fresh, have a reminder. There's always new coaches that need to know. It's never a bad idea to have a touch up on all those things, but those things take a lot of time. Like the computer modules for the Kentucky High School, just to be able to go to the competitions as a coach and all that stuff. Just them, separate from varsity. Just them. It's about 10, 20-hour training every other year. And more if you had to do, there would be some other kind of certification. There'd be separate testing. The certification you'd have to do every other year. And if you had to do that, then you'd probably spend close to, another 20 hours just going over that module or whatever it is. It's all kind of this extensive training, going over all the things that you need to know, policies, understanding all that stuff from safety, health, basically being in charge of a group of people. You have to have a game plan for every single scenario. You have to be prepared for anything that can happen. And it just goes, if the bus has a wreck, you got to understand it, to get training to all this stuff. You have to know all these things. And that's just time. And those meetings aren't bad. I understand them. They're important. They tell you how to do that. Every coach has to do that everywhere. It's non-optional. You got to know these things. You got to know how to fill out a bus form to take people on the bus so that you can take them to competitions and bring them home. And the policy and the procedures and how you apply to get a bus driver. You got to sit through meetings for all that just to learn how to do those things. And then each one of those things that you've now learned how to do is going to later require more time that people don't think about. But that's where we're going to start. That's what we do just to begin the season. Now, we would typically, sometime like 6 weeks after Nationals, we would begin having our open gyms for practices to build towards tryouts. Everything is to come in. You're going to learn our tryout material, the cheers that we want you to do, the fight song, and then we're also going to see what you can do from a stunt and tumbling perspective and have an idea of what your skill is. We start doing those clinics early to give people enough time to learn the material, to have a time to get comfortable and get integrated with people that they're going to work or try out with. It's all part of that process. But we don't go as like, it's like an hour and a half, 2 days a week. If the boys are playing in the regional tournament that week, we're not going to have that so we can go to the game, stuff like that. And, we're still cheering games, even though our competitive season has ended. We still have to start finishing up the remainder. If the boys basketball team, the girls basketball team are going to regionals, they're going to state, we've got to cheer all these games. So that's getting stuff together, getting bus forms together, making sure that we have a bus driver. And usually it's not too bad to plan all that stuff, because once the teams know that they're going to be at these games, then there's already an expectation. The bus drivers know somebody's going to need rides. The people that run all that stuff over there, they know that there's going to need, and they're prepared for that stuff. So it's not extremely difficult to do, but you have to fill out the forms. You have to do all this stuff. You have to have a head count. Going on a trip anywhere on the bus as a coach, you're responsible for everybody. You have to carry the binders that have everybody's physical in case something happens for you to go to the doctor. We've got your physical form. If something happens where all that crap, we have to have waiver forms, physicals, all that stuff's kept in a binder, and we have to lug that stuff around with us everywhere you go. If your coach doesn't do that, they should. Every coach is supposed to. That's why everybody's got a big backpack. Like, what's the backpack for? It's full of forms. That's what it's full of. It's full of heavy ass binders full of information about the children on the team. That's what it is. You're lugging those around everywhere. And then, for us, it'd be like an hour drive to Murray for the regional tournament, then an hour drive back. Plus, you're going to get there like 45 minutes before the game starts. Then you got to warm up, wait for the game to start. Then you're going to cheer the game. And then all that stuff. The whole thing is becoming a 4 or 5 hour extravaganza real quick. And that's all dependent on another sport. You don't get to dictate when that's going to happen, because they keep winning, you keep going, you keep cheering. You have no control of that. But you got to keep organizing it. You got to keep pulling your team together. You got to keep making these things happen. Keep going over material. Ideally, at this point, you should be pretty game. But, all your focus is going to be on that, because you do want to look presentable every time you come out in public. And that's part of the cheerleading. You want to do your job well. But then on the flip side, we're also trying to prepare for the next year. We are looking at the people that are incoming. How did the people that we have that are returning from the previous year, how did they progress from this time a year ago? And that's something that we're going to look at. How much did they improve? How much opportunity did we give them to improve? Where's the correlation there? Where do we think that they need to be at going into this year? And are they at that level now? And if they're not, how far away are they? Is it obtainable? Is it realistic? Those are things that we have to look at, because we have to make sure that everybody that's going to return is someone that we want to return. Because if we gave you a lot of opportunity and you didn't make that, then that's a position in my mind that's in jeopardy. Plus, we have to account for how many people did we just lose? How many people just graduated? How many people are not planning to come back? Because there's usually always one person every year at least that's not a senior that doesn't come back. Sometimes sometimes you're finding out during the process. And all this to build towards tryouts. So you have an idea of how many people that you want, how many people you're planning to take. You're starting to have these discussions. How many people are we going to try to manage? Plus, at this time, we are also usually waiting for, you get an idea of what rule changes are going to be. Those things are coming into effect. Are they going to change divisions? Are they going to expand this? Are they going to do that? Sometimes that stuff pops up, and you have to be prepared to shift gears. If your division gets axed, then you got to change everything that you know. And that's a whole nother conversation right there. All of this is just going. We haven't started anything yet. Do you understand what I'm saying? I've talked about a lot of things, a lot of responsibilities, a lot of stuff that people don't think about. We haven't started the season yet. These are the things that we're doing. These are the conversations that are happening. These are the things that are going on naturally, organically. These are things that are part of the process. In a perfect world, no matter what, these things always happen. And we haven't even gotten there yet. So over time, typically what we would do, if there were people that we knew, it's been several weeks, they don't have the appropriate skills, like This kid can't even do a back handspring, and we're expecting them to be close to having a tuck. They don't have that. So obviously that's an easy conversation. Typically, we'll let those people know ahead of time. Or, sometimes we'll take people that have nothing. What do we need? Once we are pretty firm on what we know is going to return and what's going to make it, we are kind of picking out that process before we go into tryouts. And then we're figuring, okay, so what are our needs? What are things that we're going to be a little bit more allowant on? Do we need more back spots? Because if we need more back spots, then even people that are on the lower end of the skill range, they have a better opportunity of making this team now based on the needs that we have. If I've got 10 guys, I'm only competing 7, and all 10 are returning. How many guys do I need to go get? How many guys do I need to try to recruit? Or what if it's same scenario, I'm only bringing back 1 guy? Well, then now I know I need a whole bunch. Need at least 6, ideally more. You never know if all 6 of those are going to work out. All these questions are going on. Looking at, we would always have the benefit of looking like a layout of what the last year's routine. So, we had this many standing tucks. So how far away are we from that? Can we surpass that? Like, all these conversations are taking place about potential possibility. Nothing firm. Just a lot of things about the entire season are starting to shape here. From this perspective, who's making improvements that's returning at open gyms? Who's, because typically, especially on our guys, we would look at that a lot because, a guy that may have been in a smaller role the year before, well, when guys graduate, now he's going to get a lot more focus at practices. Especially, we're limited on who's got experience now. We've got even more people that are new that are coming in. So your opportunities are going to be better. You're going to have better chances to do more stuff than you did the year before. We're more reliant on you. You've got experience. You've got dependability. We're going to give you opportunity based on that. How are those people progressing? How far do we think we are from getting to where? Because if they come in and they're not progressing a whole lot, we haven't really seen a whole lot of change with the given opportunity in 4 or 5 weeks, then obviously that's a little bit concerning. You should get a little bit better. If it's cleaner or more consistent, obviously if there's an up in the amount of usage that you're getting, there should be an up in the amount of productivity that you're producing. Those are things that we're looking at. All this stuff goes into it. Typically when we would do the actual tryout, we have to have a list of things before time. You have to have the physical, because you have to have a physical to make sure that you're healthy to be on the team. That it's appropriate, because we don't want to take you and then find out that you're not healthy or you're not adequate or that you have some kind of physical disability that we have to accommodate and you lied about it. Stuff like that. That's what all that's about. But all that stuff is to make sure that it's benefit for you, that we're not going to have a health problem, or if there's something that we got to have. Not my team. The all-girl team had a girl one year that tried out that had claimed, I totally think that she's a liar. I just want to be so front about that. She claimed to have an airborne peanut allergy, which is bullshit, by the way. And they took all of the peanut M&Ms, the Snickers, the best candies. They took them all out of the concession stands. So now at halftime, when we have a break, I can't even enjoy peanut M&Ms in between basketball games, in between halves. I can't. That thing I've been hungering for. I can't have that because this little kid said they have an airborne peanut allergy. One individual. I couldn't have peanut butter. I did. I didn't care. I didn't care. We went to the regional tournaments. They don't have that rule. They don't know. They don't know. It's a different venue. They have peanut M&Ms at away games. I loved away games. They had the best snacks. The ones we couldn't get at mine. I'm getting really off topic. I'm apologizing. I'm just a little heated about that. I spent several years suffering through. I love peanut M&Ms and I like my Snicker bars, and I was, my paydays and my Babe Ruths, and I couldn't have those. Peanut butter, Reese's. I like my candies. I like my snacks. When I'm at the games, I like to enjoy it. I have my nachos, my Dr. Pepper. If they have a hot dog, I'll get a hot dog. I enjoy it. I like the football games, the basketball games. I really enjoyed that stuff as a coach. And we'll talk about that some too, because there's pros and there's cons. So we've got all this stuff even set up before tryouts. We typically have like parent meetings ahead of time. So we let them know, hey, this is what you can expect if your child makes the team. The fundraising, what we do to go into just getting the money to go on all of our stuff. And we have to figure all that stuff out ahead of time. So even before we start talking to them about money, we've already had a conversation about money. How much money is in the account from the year before? How much do we need, or we're estimated to need? Because we know already what competitions that we're going to go to. We know what our expenses are going to be based on the years prior. What kind of money, what kind of money is the school going to give us? And it's usually not a lot. How much are we going to need to raise? We've already planned all that stuff out. And we're starting to put together fundraisers. Like we always have the bingo with the school. That's usually a big one. We get a lot of money off that. We always do bingo. And then we just do other fundraisers. I think we've done stuff like sell bed sheets, laundry detergent. There's all kind of fundraiser things out there. It's not hard to find them. Varsity has links on stuff that they sell. There's tons of stuff that people sell. Cookies. And we're starting to introduce that to them and talk about costs and money. Financially, is this something that's going to be realistic? Most of the time, if the kids do all the fundraising and commit to it, it's financially doable. It's not that bad. But we want the parents to understand, because most of the parents are going to be responsible for bringing a good portion of my team to practice or picking them up and bringing them home. So we need to know, this is what you can expect your child's life to be like. This is what our typical practice schedules are like. This is what the availability, making sure that they know to plan around it. This is what we like to do. This is how we like to operate it. Hey, don't plan a vacation in February because we're going to nationals. Don't expect your kids to see your kids in January because we're preparing them. Stuff like that. All these conversations are place. Talking to the parents about the stuff that they're going to buy. Like, first year girls, it's the most expensive year typically because you have to buy everything. You got to get the shoes, the Spanx, the hoodies, the crew necks, the bows, the socks, this crap, that crap, all this stuff. So it's a little expensive. Guys is a lot easier. You're getting shorts and you're getting shoes. That's what we're getting you. You get a few t-shirts. That's cool. You want some other stuff? We'll talk about it. That's usually how it went. The most expensive thing they'd get is their shoes, and we get a deal on it because we got so many of them. And getting questions from them. And some people will decide like, hey, that's not going to work time management wise. Give the parents an opportunity to talk to their kids about any potential conflicts, or prepare them for the commitment that they're getting ready to embark on. Because it's not just their kids that are typically going to be going on this. A lot of these parents go on this journey with them in some way, shape, or form, or capacity. That's all we got going into the tryout. And know that, like I said, when we've talked to them, we've done all this stuff. We've taught them the fight song. They know the expectations. They know what they're going to look for. They've seen the score sheets. They're aware of it. And then we do the tryout. I usually didn't judge very often the tryout. And we did that we wanted other people's opinions. Someone outside the box to look at this and score this and tell us what you think is our perception of this. Because we've seen them more. We've worked with them more. We are sometimes comparing people to the best people that we've seen. You know what I'm saying? We're used to a high quality. So we want to make sure that if someone's not performing that, and typically most people that just come in aren't performing at a national championship level. So we want to make sure that we're accurately depicting what they do. That we're not being too heavy, too harsh because of the quality that we expect. If that makes any sense. That was one of the reasons why I think that we did it. To reduce bias, to say, hey, this was a separate judging panel. These are the scores. And we would just wait for that process. And, they would do the tumbling. We didn't do stunts at tryouts because one year, way before me, they did it. It was a really chaotic mess. So typically we evaluate the boys during practices. Like they don't have a formal tryout, at least not on our end. But we would just pretty much evaluate them at practice and be like, okay, we dictate, because a lot of those open gyms will focus on stunning, especially on my end. Who's working well with who's got potential, what are we finding out, who's growing, who's developing, who's listening, who's learning. There's a lot of things that go into deciding the guys that are much different from the girls. Yes, we want skill, but when you're getting guys that have no experience and no idea what this really even is, they don't even understand, the most basic concepts of what we do, you're going to be a little bit more lenient while they learn and figure out and develop and grow. And then the question becomes, how much do you need? How much potential, age, grade? How much time am I going to be able to put into this person? a lot of factors that go into it. It's usually, you'll know how many people you want to lug around with you. So for us guys, it was pretty simple. When we were medium co-ed, it was, we'd compete 7 guys. 10 was typically where we were comfortable at. Sometimes we would stretch a little bit above that. Sometimes we went below. If we went below, it's because we didn't have enough guys try out. But most of the time, 10 was a pretty comfortable number that I liked. When I was a large co-ed, it was much bigger. We would typically put 10 guys on the floor or more. Sometimes that could go up to 12, and then we'd have a few extra maybe. Most of the times we would put guys out there if they could do a little bit of something because we could find use for them. Because obviously we're not putting as many girls out there, and we're able to just put more people on the floor in general in that division, which is a whole other thing that you look at, your numbers. So we judge them on that stuff. We'll judge them on the cheers that they do. We call a cheer, they do the cheer, they perform it. I don't know if they know what cheer it's going to be beforehand. Some of them get a chance to call whatever they want to. Typically, we pick one, like we've taught them so many. They don't really know which one they're going to do when they go in. I've never seen one of them go like horrendously bad ever, unfortunately. And I used to do tryouts with literally one year, I think we judged 140 girls, and I didn't ever see anything tragic in all that time. And that's a good thing. People are being smart and they're not doing stupid stuff. But people are putting a lot of focus on their fight song and on those motions. It was always good to see people, especially in the beginning, those young people, they're always putting in that effort they're trying because they want to be here. And they think, they don't understand all of the aspects of us. Because like I said, we're much more the competitive. So they don't understand we don't really care about the ball game stuff, but they're putting the effort into it because they don't know what our process is like yet. But man, it's a fun time. Fun time doing those tryouts because you're happy when you see people do well, and especially someone that you don't know, you kind of getting an idea. It's kind of like a mini test for what a competition's been like. You've given them material, they have so much time to do it. And there's a chance to perform it, and it matters, and they're being scored, and they're being judged. So when you see someone have limited time to learn something and do it well, that's a good feeling. That is solidifying, at least a little bit in my mind, okay, this person can handle a little bit of pressure, at least on a small scale. It's a test, and it's a small test, it's a small sample of what comes on later in the road. Those things are good. Then after everybody tries out, we would typically do 3 girls at a time, rotate them in and out. And this would go on because we would start right after school at 3:30, and there were a lot of nights that 6:45, 7:30 is when we got done with the tryout. And then we would take all the scores, and we would go back to the office, and now we're going to look at the scores, and we're going to discuss who's going to make this team. So for us, what we would do is we've got everybody's scores written out in order from highest to lowest. Okay, that's where we're going to start. Get them all organized, high to low. Where is it? Okay, where is our cutoff line? Who is the last person that we absolutely know for sure is going to make this team? There's no doubt in our mind this person is going to make this team. They've got the skills, they got reliability, they probably have experience. Where's that line going to be at? And who all's below that line? Okay, what number do we need to get to? How many girls do we want? Typically 22. 17 on the floor, 5 alternates. That was the magic number. We never went above 22 ever. We always did that. Other teams will have different numbers. But you've got to figure out this. Okay, so how many people from that line to 22 can I get? Now, I don't have to take 22. That's as many as I'm willing to take. So maybe I have, maybe I'm okay, there's 17 girls I know for sure are going to make this team. I'm returning 17 girls. I feel comfortable with that. Now I need 5 more. But if there's not 5 that I feel comfortable with, I don't have to take 5. Or if there's a lot, maybe there's 10 that I think could be there. Now I've got a discussion. Now I've got a thing. Because it's going to depend. What do I need? Do I need more bases? Do I need more top girls? Do I need more back spots? Okay. We would lay all that out. Okay, who's a top girl? Who's a base? Who's a back spot? We'd have lines. Figure all this stuff out. So we know what we need. Okay, we only got 1 returning back spot, so we want to pick up at least 2, minimum 2. Because we do a lot of stuff with backing. We can use guys for it some. But typically during the routine, there's like portions where we do a lot of little all-girl preps. It's something small, but you need a back spot. Okay, well then we know we need to find that. And typically, like we've got the scores there. Typically, we don't follow the scores a whole lot. And what I mean is, there's a threshold because if we need something, then regardless of score we have to take it. Because a lot of these kids, they will get better as we coach them. They will get better as we develop them. They will grow and expand with our help. That's how it's going to happen. They haven't had that level of coaching. No offense, but we didn't have feeder programs. We'd had no competitive middle schools until like my last 2 years there. We had one, but we never had anything like that. Our all-star program is not the same. It doesn't have any focus on cheer. It's just tumbling and stunts, and not everybody that came from there was fantastic. It's not like it was a world's gym or something like that. It's not the case, as it is for most people. So that's what we're looking at. There's some inexperience there. There's not a lot. When those people come in, we can help them grow. We can help them get better because we're going to have a chance to teach them and mold them under our way. And most of the time, that was always the case for us. You bring them in, you fix the things you need to fix, you mold what they bring to the table. It just depends, do you need what they're bringing to the table? So there'll be a lot of conversations about that. There might be, I think, one year we took a girl, I think it was the lowest score I've ever seen. She had like a 38 out of 100. It was terrible. But man, she was tiny. Maybe 88 pounds. Probably not even that much. She was a transfer from a school across the state lines that was not a nationals team. I don't think they were a competitive team. But her mom lived in the area and wanted her daughter to have the opportunity. And she was small. She had practically no tumbling. Her motions are horrendous. And we took her because she was tiny. We're like, well, we'll give her a chance. She hasn't had this level of coaching. She hasn't had this quality of supervision. Let's see how she does. We'll give her the opportunity. Because she's tiny, we have to take a chance. And it worked out great. She competed on nationals that year. She made it to all the competitions, actually. Grew a tremendous amount, especially in the air. Stunning performing. Cheered with us for 4 years. Was fantastic. One of the most reliable, dependable cheerleaders we ever had. And she scored a 38 on her freshman tryout. 38.5. So, like I said, there's a lot that goes into just that beginning sequence. So after we have the conversation, we've decided who we're going to keep, who we're going to take. We've gone over all that stuff. We let people know. Anybody that we knew wasn't going to make it or we were on the fence about, we would call them and talk to them. And just let them know. That way they weren't surprised or shocked or caught off guard when we posted the results. And usually they would be done by that night. Or I think we would do it the next day maybe. I think the trials would be on Thursday and then they would be posted Friday after school and go into the weekend. And let them know, hey, if you made it, your parents are going to get an email giving you the details. All that stuff. Let them know kind of what the remainder of our practice schedule for the school year is going to be, the rest of April and the back end of May, and kind of get started on what's going to be. Typically during school, we're just doing a lot of the same stuff after we've finished tryouts, because usually we got about 2-3 weeks at most before summer comes around, and we pretty much just keep doing the same type of thing. We might get a little bit more organized with some stuff, like pairing some groups together that maybe we think could be in the routine for like a stunt or something, and starting to build chemistry between people. But we've really not cemented a whole lot early on. Some places it would be a little bit different. Like when I was at Graves, we would start pyramids right then. Like we are putting stuff in motion and just giving us an idea like this is what we want to work on. We're trying to get things down pat so that we can focus on other things later. We would start that process a lot earlier than almost anybody would. Like there were times when we were working on pyramids in February, and we competed in nationals 3 weeks prior. And we've already started working on stuff. That was typically with like a really experienced team. Most of the people were coming back. So that's not all the time. But yeah, and then the summer. The summer is a breeze because, well, I say that as far as like you don't have a lot of stuff to worry about. Like there's no school stuff going on. Most of the kids are just kind of, you know, they're working jobs for the summer. They're at home during the summer. They're just hanging out with their friends. For us, there was not a lot of hectic stuff going on. Obviously, the most difficult thing about the summer practices are that people are off on vacations or going here or going there. We'd have one kid go to like GSP every year, um, or stuff like that. And that's not really a bad thing. It's not negative, but obviously you had to plan practice around that. So there's a lot of extended time, like keeping up with what everybody's doing and making sure that all this stuff is on par. Who's going to be going here, who's going to be going there. You have to plan that. You have to know that. You have to organize that. And everything about our practice is built around that because we're putting together groups on paper that we want to try because we're trying to build ideas for the routine essentially at this point. We're continuing that process of who's got chemistry with who. We might introduce some things like a stag or a basket or doing pyramid work, very, very small things like a full up stag, things of that nature, getting them integrated. Who's going to work well with who. Those are the things we're going to figure out. Well, when people are gone, you have to plan around that. If all the top girls that are in the stunts are going to be gone, well, then you probably don't need to work on stunts that day. And you can also tell the boys just to stay home because there's nothing for them to do. If you're missing half of this side from this pyramid, then you probably are going to have to work on this pyramid, and then you can put some focus on some other things. You can split us up. I can go here, and Jennifer can go here, or another coach can go there, and we can split up and divide. How are we going to organize this practice? And depending on who you got, it depends on what you're going to go to. And it takes a lot of time. I mean, for every hour that you spend in practice, it's probably an equal amount of time planning what goes into it. Conversation on the phone. Where do we need to work on? We're constantly in conversation with each other. We're constantly trying to fill this out. And that's all hours of the day. All freaking hours of the day. Not one day went by hardly where I wasn't on the phone having questions about this routine. Whether it's 15 minutes, a 30-minute conversation, this and that. I'm at work, stepping out to take calls. All the time. It was constant. Being committed to that. And just planning, just trying to maximize. And during the summer, if you're like a teacher, it's obviously not as bad because you're home too. Like you don't have to work. That's nice. Like I wasn't a teacher, so I didn't have that. I was still working all the time. But that gives you a little bit of time. That's really your reprieve. But your focus can be a little bit on cheerleading more, a little bit on focusing, which is good because there's a lot of stuff that's coming up. It's a chance to kind of plan your season, and you really need to take advantage of the summers to do that. So your choreography camp, if you're going to do that, planning UCA camps, a lot of that stuff, all this stuff that you're going to have to do, because we used to be mandated that we had to attend a UCA camp in order to be able to go to UCA regionals. So you have to plan for that. You have to make sure your fundraising is there for that. We had to have waiver forms, all that crap. All that stuff has to be done. And it has to be done at a certain time and packaged and bundled and turned in and given to the people that it needs to be given to. So you're going to give these forms to kids, and there's always going to be that one kid that just can't seem to figure out how to return a piece of paper to you with their parent's signature on it. It is mind-boggling. Unbelievable how often that happens. It's almost insane. The complete lack of responsibility and care that goes into that. And this is one of my things that gripes me. This is one of those things that irritates coaches to no end. Because I've seen it have really bad effects on people. Getting waiver forms for UCA, and these people didn't turn them in. Well, they've got to be filed and sent to this person. And now I got a coach call me, and they're like practically in tears because they feel like a bad mom because they can't go to their kid's soccer game because somebody didn't turn in their paperwork for them to file appropriately. And it takes time to do that and to register for competitions. But you can't do it till you have all this stuff in. But this kid wanted to dick around and not get it in on time. And tell me that she feels like a bad mom because she can't go to her kid's soccer game. Because she has to take the time to do this because it's at the deadline in order for us to be able to do this thing. So then that she planned to do days prior when she had the time. She couldn't. Because some kid didn't care, didn't respect her enough to take care of the stuff in an appropriate time. That's real stuff, man. That's real. You know, I don't want to get off too off topic and get hot again, but those are the things that kill you. Undermining and not appreciating and not valuing and not respecting and not knowing what other people put into the same process. Every decision that you make affects somebody else in one way or another, positively or negatively. Every decision, every time that you're not following your responsibilities, especially in this sport. You think it affects just you, it doesn't. It affects everybody. And it's small stuff that you don't think is important. But it's a big deal. So we'll run into that stuff. Making sure some kids have updated physicals. This is a chance for you to start getting everything in set for the season. We might, if we know we're going to go to choreography camp in Lexington, we've got all of our stuff set in. We've filled out the form. We've sent it to the bus driver. We've put in a request to have a driver, and we're waiting for someone to respond. Stuff like that. We've got all that planned. We're ready. We know. Getting your hotels in order, for a camp. Like for us, we'd go to Lexington. So ours was pretty simple. We'd call it. We'd book the hotel, pay with this card. Comes out of the balance of the school's account. It pays for it. But it's a process to do that. Make sure you keep up with your receipts. You have to have all these things. All this stuff has to be kept up together. You turn it, report it to the accountant at the school. They make sure to book it. They make sure to log it and keep up with what's yours. All that goes into it. And it takes time to do that. It's not terrible, to be honest with you, most of the time. But you're going to do it a lot because you're going to be traveling a lot. Keeping up with this stuff, it's all process when you're doing it at the school. And I don't even really know that because, like I said, that was never really directly my responsibility. But I know that there's a whole lot to go into. It's not just call up a hotel and give them the school credit card. It's not that simple. We've done that before, but it's not that simple. There's a lot of planning that just goes into getting you to an individual place. Because, like I said, when you're on that bus and you're traveling, we've got to have all these forms. If we're at choreography camp, typically parents don't come. So if something happens to you, you get hurt, break a finger or break an arm or you'll roll an ankle and you need to go to the doctor, well, I've got to have your physical form that's got all your medical information and a consent form that says I can get you here until, your parents will show up or whatever, or however they're going to plan to do that. We've taken kids to the hospital, it got stitched up and brought them back and they just kept practicing. Like that's happened before. I've been there, I've done that, It just depends on what the parents can say, depends on what the injury is going to be. But we got to have all that stuff done and in order, because that, like your physical form will have like a copy of like your insurance card, your insurance number. So like even if your parents aren't there with your stuff, because typically most, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds don't carry medical insurance card with you. If you don't have it on that form, then they won't know, all for that billing and stuff. It makes everything significantly smoother when you have that information. It's significantly smoother when all that stuff is going, because you never know. Maybe a kid gets hurt and their parent is working that day and they've got some kind of job where it's not realistic to just be on the phone all the time, or you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that happens. All these things are set there as provisions to make sure that you can handle those situations. That's why that rule is in effect. That's why that rule is in place. That's why we follow it. But you got to be prepared for all that stuff. So, and like I said, all this stuff is not, you can't get away with not doing this stuff. Bus driver's always going to ask for his bus driver forms. When you come to the register for competitions, they're going to ask to see those physical forms. They may not look at all of them. They want to make sure you got them. All that stuff takes place. It's constantly going. We've also had conversations about this point going into choreography camp. Who's going to make the mat? And a lot of times, there would be a lot of people that we would be pretty firmly cemented. And maybe some people that are competing for positions. And maybe we end it and people don't know. But we're also having conversations because we would have a choreographer. So we're having conversation. This is what we can do typically on the first day. A lot of conversation. And it's just 3 long days, like 8-hour days. We're just focused on that. We're in Lexington. We're away from everybody. We're at the hotel. I've got to supervise these kids all the time. Thankfully, at choreography camp, usually on the first day, after they get busted up real bad, they're too tired to get out and do stupid stuff in the hotel in the middle of the night. So that's a blessing, thank God. You don't have to supervise them that heavily, or you don't have to be in that panic. Because the last time you looked at some of them, you come around to do a check, we do like hotel checks at night, and like There's kids laying on the bed just wrapped in ice packs, just trying to survive the moment. Just complete exhaustion. So that's fantastic. Typically, you got to supervise, know where they are, know what's going on, keep up with them. And kids are mischievous and stupid and dumb and young. It's mostly just young. And that usually, when you say young, those other words are part of an amplifier of what that enables and what that means. But you got to be responsible for all that stuff. Some kid runs around and gets stupid. It's your fault. Because you're watching them. They want to go and do something stupid, you're the one that pays for it. Promise you that. You're the one that pays for it. As a coach. Someone does anything dumb. And I've seen it. Like, this is not me. A different school. Well, it was Graves. I was going to school at Graves. But our baseball team, this is maybe the year after I graduated high school, went down to Florida for a tournament. Every single year, always go in the tournament. Yearly tradition. Two of the boys did something stupid. Big time stupid. Had to be reported to the school. They don't get to go on that Florida trip no more. Or they didn't for a long time. They may now. It's been a while. It's been 15 years. But took that opportunity away from them completely. Because the kid did something stupid. And you couldn't trust that coach to make sure that didn't happen. Those are the two reasons why. So, if you ever think, we're going to do something stupid on your trip, you remember that. Because that's an option. Your coach is someone that's going to be punished for that. It's going to be looked down on and it's going to be embarrassing. It's going to make them look bad. And think about everything that I've already talked about. We haven't even made it to the school year. So when someone does something stupid, bringing alcohol on a trip, or guy and girl trying to run off, or just being out late, being loud and causing a ruckus, or doing stupid stuff, you put it all in risk. You put my career as your coach at risk, put me in jeopardy, disrespect me, disrespect my authority, make it look like I can't control you, then we will lose privileges. It will happen. Or I'll get fired. And they'll find someone who can. Because you want to be stupid. So, there's that. Those are potential. I've seen this stuff happen to people. Get in trouble for things that they couldn't control. We can look at the University of Kentucky, for example, there. Nobody did anything wrong. Guy got fired because other people did things wrong. But they considered it his responsibility to oversee those things. It's not right. It's not fair. It's not anything that he did. Not anything that happened on a school event or a school trip. But because it's supposed to be under his watch, he's punished for it. So you tell me how stuff like that's fair. Because I don't think that it is. You want to talk about things that kill your passion? You watch the greatest cheerleading coach in the world lose his job for some bullshit he had no responsibility for. Multi-time national champion. World champion. Best in the world. Over some shit he had no control over. Just tossed out. Yeah. So, who kills whose passion now? Is it the athlete? The coach? It's the stupidity is what kills it. It is the accountability. It is the understanding of what a team is, how it is linked, how it interacts, how it develops, how it grows. How you betray it, how you undermine it. You start picking things away. You start taking stupid chances. You start taking too stupid risks. Start doing stupid things. Tell me how it makes you feel. Coach yelling at you. Coach has demands for you. You don't like it. Coach tells you to do this. Coach tells you that you're fat. Coach yells at you all the time. Tells you that you're crap. Tells you that it sucks. How does that make you feel? Makes you feel disrespected, unappreciated. Have a kid go do something. Not turn in paperwork. Not show up to practice on time. Cause problems. Fight all the time. Do you feel respected? Because I didn't. Anytime something like that would happen. Undermining. Disrespectful. It kills your passion. Because like I said, I want to focus on the cheer. That's what I love. That's what I'm passionate about. I'm not passionate about disciplining people or having to be a supervisor. I liked the years where I could lay down in the hotel room, put my head on the pillow, and know that I didn't have to worry about anything. Those are nice. A lot of security there in my heart, if you know what I mean. But yeah, so that's where we're at. So that's your whole job. But like I said, getting back to the choreography, we're having a lot of questions, and we're going with our choreographer. For us and our thing, we had someone that we trusted. We had someone that we could build off of. We had someone that we were related to, someone that we had a working relationship with, someone that we feel comfortable with. There's a lot of conversation that goes into what goes on that day. Because what if we don't like what they're doing? Or what if we don't think that that's realistic, something that we can do? We'd have a lot of those conversations, a lot of back and forth, a lot of arguing. Sometimes that'd be a little public because, we're right there in the gym. We have to figure it out right now. This is the time that we have together. We have to make the most of this. So, and sometimes those things get a little emotional. I told a very prominent cheerleading coach under like a 50-time national championship program one time that I thought the cheer he choreographed for us was generic. Those were my exact words because I didn't have time to think about what I was going to say or how I should have said it. So I used the word generic. You want to talk about pissed off? You have to make quick decisions in the moment. It's not long till football picks up, so we've got to get into football. We've got to take time out of our practice time to work on these cheers. All this stuff has to be organized. All this stuff has to be put together. We have to put all this stuff together. And like for us, cheering football games was like a production. And not all schools were like that. Ours was. They would have all kinds of extravaganza stuff going on. Like our first game of the year, if we were playing Tillman, it would be like televised. So we'd have like the local news stations would be here, camera crews, stuff like, which changes the whole dynamic of how you have to operate a game. And when you can go out here on this, when you can take the field to do this, you have to have a lot of stuff planned out. You got to be at the game at 5:30 or 6, whatever it is. Kickoff's at 7. You got to spend some time getting warmed up. You got to make sure everybody looks good. They're in uniform. They're prepared. But do your head count. Go over stuff quickly before the game. Be organized. Make themselves presentable. Make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. Cheering the way that they're supposed to do. We got all kinds of rules with us. Like, for our state, like obviously the simple one. Like there's no jewelry. No polish on your fingernails, which I don't know why that matters. But we go ahead and we start enforcing it then. But I always liked the games. I was fortunate enough that the schools that I was a part of had good sports. So, like, at McCracken, our football team was good most of the time, decent. Games were good, very, very entertaining, enjoyed them. I was there doing some really good years. Our basketball team was phenomenal. Was in, like, the regional championship game at one point for, like, 7 years straight. So, like, the girls were really good, too. They, all the sports were fun to cheer. Our teams were good. The teams were competitive. There were a lot of really good games. The environment's good. We always had people at the games, no matter what game it was we were cheering. It just seemed like it was packed. We had really good school spirit. That was one thing that school's known for. At Graves, there would be some years where the boys basketball team was phenomenal. Football team was hit or miss. It just depended. Some games were really, really awesome to cheer. But I like football. I like basketball. I like doing those sports. I like watching them on TV. Really enjoyed being there and being part of the school in spirit. The environment's very, very uplifting. So, like, as a coach, when you're there and, like, things are going good, the team's winning, the vibe's good, the weather's nice, that's awesome. But, when it's November and it's, 4 degrees outside, that game sucks. Been there and done that one. We cheered a game. God, I think it was 23 degrees outside. Sometimes traveling is stressful, keeping up with that many people and then just being on the bus, man. That's just rough sometimes. But like I said, for the most part, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that's fun. It's these extra things. There's a lot of stuff that goes in, just organizing, getting trips, and paying for crap. It's ridiculous, Typically, we're going to pretty much follow that structure all the time, but now we're got to check people's grades. So every week we're getting a report sent to us from the athletic director or from the assistant athletic director. All these teachers got to turn in these grades for all these athletes. We get an email, make sure they're grades. We get them every single week. We get people who are, anybody's failing, anybody's eligible. There's like a certain kind of, or people that are on the wire, like D's and F's. We get all those. So who's ineligible? We got to keep up with that stuff. And man, if you're ineligible in cheerleading, boy, it ain't the same as football. I ain't got another wide receiver. It don't work that way. Basketball, same way. I can't just put any 5 guys on the floor and it work. It's not like that in cheerleading. And then, people interacting with each other, school, people being around each other, fighting, arguing, stuff happens. There's a lot more interaction. There's a lot more stimulus, a lot more stuff. And that, that doesn't really necessarily direct you directly as a coach. It just depends on how they act to it, how they respond to it. Because whatever problems they cause could potentially be if somebody gets suspended, that's going to affect what I do at practice. Somebody gets in school detention for 30 days, it's definitely going to affect what I got to do. Stuff like that. So the risks start piling up a little bit higher now. Those things are starting to, could become a problem. They're not typically, like, we would have incidents and I feel like we had some like American Pie type stuff sometimes, but there would always be some kids that you really got to watch them on their grades because they're, especially in the beginning of the year when there's not a lot of grades in, the beginning of those semesters, the Januaries, the Augusts, grades kind of fluctuate in a weird way because there's just not a lot of stuff in that grading system. So sometimes, you might have somebody get caught off guard that you're not ready for. Well, now you have to change your practice plan. You may have to restructure all this stuff. Like I said, for us, we're practicing 3 days a week, 2 hours, tumbling on another day. So you're mandatory. You're doing it 4 days a week, plus whatever we're doing extra. If we're cheering the football game on Friday, that's your day 5. Just getting together to stunt extra on the weekends, boom, boom, boom. All this stuff. We got to schedule gym time with the athletic director. We do that the month for our times. Hopefully we get what we want. Us, at that time of the year, we're not the priority sport. So like volleyball is going to get the gym ahead of us. They're going to get their preferred time, which is fair. When we're in season, it's the same way. But at this point in time, we're not in season. So whatever sports are in seasons are going to get preferential treatment because they're preparing for the most upcoming event. We're not that. Even though what we do, we practice on all year long, we're not really considered in season until a certain point. And that's by a lot of things. And that's fair. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes you might get, we were blessed. We had lots of practice facilities. We had 2 basketball gyms. We had an indoor football stadium, or we would have indoor tennis facility that was absolutely massive. So blessed. Not a lot of places have that. Like when I was at Graves, we had a gym, and then we had the rundown blue building, or we would go to like a central elementary school that was like down the road and practice. Like, we didn't always really get preferential treatment. We had to make stuff work sometimes. With us, we still have to make it work, but it's a lot easier. Like we have access to a lot more facilities. We don't have to go and plan with anybody to get the time that we want. It's pretty easy to work around. It's never bad. At least on our end. Some people might have it different. It just depends on who you're having to work with, or what other coaches you're having to work with. Because like we would have guys typically that would play basketball, or not basketball, that would play football and do cheerleading. Well, we've got to schedule around, we got to work something out because you need him and I need him. And we got to figure out a way where we can both have him at our practices. Or understand, sometimes, if the football was a priority, we couldn't work it out, football went out. Especially at that time of the year when they were in season. Same thing, if it was cheerleading season and cheerleading is going on and it's not going to work out, then we get it. We get that kid for that day. All that stuff goes on. So you got to barter and work with other coaches. And man, there's some people that are tough to deal with. Ours were always, they're at least good to our face. I never had too many problems. And we had, like I said, we had access to all kinds of really nice stuff. trainers. We're one of the few sports we didn't have to have a trainer directly at every single practice. And he wouldn't go to like our trips. But obviously, if we ever had an issue, that's who we got to contact. We had a trainer. I think he was hired through the school, or maybe he was contracted through the orthopedic institute. He's still there. Awesome guy. Super, super awesome guy. One of the best dudes I've ever worked with. Best trainer I've ever worked with. Thought he was fantastic. Always reliable. Knew his stuff. Dude was awesome. Practices at this point too, we're going full out. We would have like statistics out. We keep track. What's hitting, what's not. What got better this week? What got better that week? What, over a 1 month period, what made the most improvement? What went down? What didn't get better? We keep statistics of everything. Every pyramid, every stunt, every tumbling pass. We would keep it check mark. We keep it locked. Videoed every full out. Every single one. Would go back. I personally would take that iPad and go back and view it and keep my stat sheet. She would do the same thing. All the time. Videoing it, keeping the stat sheet, giving us statistics, giving us numbers, giving us something substantial, a variable to look at, to ponder on. Statistics are a hell of a thing. You might be like, oh, well, they're kind of, then you go look at the statistics. Oh, they got a 25% hit rate. Well, looks like I need to figure something out. Do we need to change this? And typically we would change stuff, from what we got at choreography. Something didn't work. We got to make a modification, or maybe we're not ready for that yet. We got to scale back, whether it's from difficulty or conditioning, something along those lines. That's going to be something that we're going to have to develop, but we got to put something that it's reasonable, that's realistic and obtainable. And sometimes that's a process. Sometimes fixing things is not easy. Depending on we used to really try to avoid like putting ourselves in situations where if you got too much stuff that's connecting and flowing, well, if something has to change, somebody has to come out. How destructive is that going to be to the image of what your routine? Because you don't want to gut it. Like I said, that's the last thing that you want to do. But if you don't design it correctly, you will have to gut it. And if you're not used to doing something like that, and your choreographer is not going to be there for a while, like ours will come once a month. But you got to be productive. You got to have something to work on. Like I said, this is just that. That's the cheer. These are organic things. These are not generated by people. These are just normal problems that pop up. Possibilities, scenarios. These things happen. You go in full out. Typically when we're getting close to competition time is when, you've got to have all this stuff for them. Like I said, we've scheduled the hotel. And however long that took to book 13 rooms and then let all the parents know so they can book their rooms there too or wherever they want to. We've made sure that everybody's got all their stuff. They got their uniforms, got all this crap packed. We've booked our hotel. We've booked our bus. We've made arrangements for our travel. We've done all this stuff. Also booked a hotel for the bus driver. We've got to pay for that. That funding comes out of your thing when you pay for the bus driver. That's part of the payment. You have to pay for the hotel room. Comes out of your funding. All that stuff you got to budget. All that stuff you got to be ready for, prepare for. Like I said, you still probably got some fundraising stuff going on, but you hope to God all these kids have turned in their waiver forms on time so that you can get them set up to go to this competition. Make sure you carry it in your binder. You come to the competition, and then navigating the competition is another thing entirely. Because as a coach, you have to be very observant of your team, and if you're an experienced coach, you've got the hang of it. It's a little bit easier. You know exactly how you want things to go. For us, like I said, we're going to come in, we're going to see the venue, we're going to make sure, we're going to give them the experience, give them the sight to see, to let them know, to introduce them things. That's part of our routine. We're going to stick with that. Like I said, we get settled into the arena. If you need to eat, we get something to eat. If we got time, we would get there plenty of time early. Kind of everything's all figured out. We've got our process before we even go back to the warm-up room. A light stretch, a little jog if we can find a place to do like a little jog, just a couple laps, just get the blood pumping, nothing crazy. Dynamic warm-up thing that we've got, it's like lunges and it's little split kicks and stuff like that. Like I said, just getting the blood flowing, getting you loose. We're controlling the emotion. We're dictating all of that. We're trying to. Making sure everybody's focused. We're trying to wrangle the sheep and we are the herder. That's essentially what's going on. Getting everybody ready before we even go to the room. Watching how people are reacting, watching people's emotions, watching people's interactions. Making sure nobody's going off trail, trying to gather everybody's attention, get the focus, get the direction going into this. How we're building our energy. When you get to the desk, you're checking in. Got to make sure you check in. Well, you will. It's right there before you go in the warm-up room. You'll never miss it. They'll ask. You check in, get your team ready, have conversation, just kind of chill. You go into the warm-up, and then you start making sure the mood, you control the focus, you control the energy that you want your team to have. For us, we would want to control our energy. It's kind of building a little bit through the warm-up. It's in a focused way, getting all the jitters, the rust, and then we're building to the big explosion when you get on the floor and really let your energy out, really have that performance. We're trying to control all these variables. Then we'll do the performance. For me, it was simple. I would just go out there and sit down in a chair, watch. I had the easy job. You go over there, you do the music check, you play all that crap. That's stressful as all get out. I did that in All-Star, and that sucks. Pressing the play button is the most nerve-wracking shit I have ever done in my life. Man, it's like it's on. I hope to God you're set. I don't know. I hope the kids are out there on the floor. They're all, you tell them to get set. They look set. Are they set? I don't know. They can't hear me. I'm so far away. It's on. I yell and hit the play button. I'd be terrified. Absolutely terrified to do that. As a matter of fact, I think I really went out of my way to avoid doing it when I was an assistant because it would have made more sense for me to do it. And I think there was a time when they thought that I was going to have to, but I did everything that I could to avoid having to do it. So it worked. You go, you give them feedback. Some people may be upset, disappointed, all that stuff. It just depends. You'll know who's who. You'll know who. That's all based on the performance. You have no idea how that's going to go. You have a general hope or an idea of where they've consistently been, but you don't actually know how the performance is going to go. This is first test of your team. You get your deduction sheet, you wait for the awards, you go through all that process, talk to them, encourage them. It's a time of reflection, and then it's also for us, the bus rides home. I've said when we win, things will be good, but we would typically for us, we would leave Lexington for our regional competition. We're going to Bardstown, stop in Bardstown, and drop off Ray, or we'd stop and get something to eat. And then so it's about an hour from Lexington to Bardstown, we eat, sit down. That's about 45 minutes with the amount of people that we got. And then now we've had 2 hours from leaving the venue to de-escalate and have conversation. So all of the coaches, we're talking about what are some things that we did well, what do we liked. We're looking at the scores. And, we've got a 4-hour bus ride in general. I mean, we've shaved off an hour of it. But we're going to use a lot of this time, usually about an hour or so, maybe longer, depending on how the performance was. We're looking at our scores. We're having reflection. What kind of questions is the things that we need to change in our routine? Where do we go from here? We're having that conversation now because we've got a good test footage now. We've got an actual performance. We've got stuff to build off of, and you're starting to plan things, starting to prepare where you're going to go, building what your criteria, planning your future into your next competition. For us to be state or maybe another regional competition or something and then looking at where we're at for nationals. What's our goal for nationals? What we want our team to be like? How far away are we from there? Are we in a position to make a change to put us closer to that position, whether that's upgrading the routine? All that stuff, like I said, this is the organic stuff. These are the parts. And then you're pondering on it. And you got to put it into practice. You come in, do things. Like I said, all this stuff is running. And like I said, it's pretty consistently. We're not stopping. Boom, 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 boom. We do a mini clinic for, elementary schools, the middle schools, boom, boom, boom. Plan that up. Get all that stuff together. T-shirts. Especially right before competitions, man. Ordering T-shirts, God bless. You have to order them out so far in advance. Get all the order forms. Get all that organized. Collect all the money. Get all that turned in. We just go to Action Sports. We would take all the money that everybody gave us, check, cash, whatever it was, take it to our school accountant. They deposit it. Then we'd go down there, order T-shirts, go down there and get it. Boom. I think we'd use the card or a checkbook, whatever it was. I think it was a card. Boom. Get a receipt. Boom. Comes out of our account. Boom. Easy. Easy, easy peasy. But it's just getting it all set up, getting it all organized, working with T-shirt people, designers. We have some pretty good people around here Just this is what we want to do. Logo. They'll come up, and we would have some really cool designs. I liked a lot of the T-shirts that we made. Like I said, we had some good people working on that, and really really easy people to work with. Super fantastic, and I thought we got good deals. But organizing all that stuff. Whose job is it to do all that? That's your coaches. Getting new signs, getting new palms, getting new everything. That's your coach. If you're getting new uniforms, call your varsity rep, schedule all that, blah, 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 pay for this. Pick out what you want. Pick out what you want without really being able to see your final product. Because you can hope, like they'll send you like a mock-up when you pick like the idea that you want to go behind, but you don't really know what your uniform's going to look like until you get it. That's pretty scary. I think I only did like 2 uniform buys, but I did them in 10 years, so I guess that's a lot. Ours always came out good. They had a better eye for it, I guess, than I did. But yeah, things run pretty much the same. But as you get closer and closer, like I said, January is where there's that big shift because you don't have a lot of time left. And as a coach, I feel like this is the same as an athlete. January is hard mentally because at this point you're putting your final touches on what these kids have done, and you're getting to a point where you're not helpful anymore. There's not much more you can do to prepare them other than give them time. Like you know what your routine's going to be. And the only thing that's left to do is to come into practice, turn on the music, see what happens, fix the little things, and keep going. And you're tired because you've been working way more than 40 hours a week. You've been spending 6 hours physically at the school or more every single week just doing practice. And I put an emphasis on more because it will be more, especially during January. You're practicing almost every single day. Plus whatever games you have to cheer. That's just what you're physically spending there. Then when you're at home, you're having to plan. You're having to prepare things. Make sure everything's organized. Plus, whatever you're doing as a teacher, grades, all this crap. That's what you do when you get home. And then by that time, it's late. It's time to go to bed. Can't fall asleep, though, because you're wondering, did you do the right thing? Have you put these kids in the right position? Have you done the right thing? Did you make sure that they have the right routine? Are you putting the right kind of pressure? It sits on you because the time to change things is gone. You're almost stuck. And it's heavy. That's the best way to describe it. Is that it's heavy. Because I know a lot of what we do is dependent on what those kids do on the floor. But it's us, the coaches, that steer them. We put them in the direction. Those kids can only go out there and do on that mat what you ask them to do. And if you have certain aspirations, you will feel fear about that. You will have a hard time sleeping. It will settle on you in your most peaceful moments because you don't want to be the reason that they're disappointed. You don't want them to do every single thing that they asked you to do and it be your fault because you didn't give them the right things to do. The more time you spend with these people, the more you're going to care about them. And that's not something that they prepare you for. You will see people grow and develop and become new people. You will see people do things that they didn't think that they could ever do and that maybe you didn't know if they could ever do. You will see people have mistakes and watch their heart break in their eyes. You will hold a kid when they're clutching their knee, when they blew out an ACL at practice. You're going to have to talk to some kid about something absolutely stupid. Some kid's going to come up to you with the goofiest conversation that you've ever heard in your life. And you're going to be a part of so many things. You are shaping and steering. And what you teach and what you help someone learn could help and change their future depending on if what you gave them allowed them to go to college or give them an opportunity. You will build and shape human beings and characters and personalities. And you will care. It's impossible not to. Everything that you have, everything that you achieve will be by their hands. Your legacy is never in your hands. It's never up to you. Not 100%. You will care. Because what we have is because of them. And when you're sitting there at night, it's getting closer and it's getting closer. You'll wonder that. Did you do the right thing for them? And it's hard. It's heavy. You get through January, you get through all the real hard stuff, then you actually go to nationals, ideally, that we would. That's a whole process because, we get plane tickets forever in advance. And there'd be some days where we'd spend, not me, there's no we in this. I never did this. I watched other people do it. Be on the phone. God, Jennifer would be on the phone sometimes with Southwest on hold for like 6 hours trying to book flights. And you got to have everybody's name, everything that's named that's on their identification card that they're going to show. Because if that kid gets it wrong and it doesn't match what's on the ID, then they can't get on the plane and that becomes a whole thing. But you've got to have all that stuff organized. Kids have got to have the right ID. For us now, we have to have the Kentucky Real ID. Which costs significantly more. It's stupid. $50 for an ID card. I remember when it was $20. Well, I guess I'm getting old. I don't know. It's stupid. But you got to make sure all that stuff's set up in advance. And usually if it is, it's pretty smooth. Check the kids' bags sometimes maybe before you go on a trip. Like we did it once. Just make sure they're not bringing anything that's going to get us in trouble or get them in trouble and being stupid. And we find out at the airport. But, making sure everybody's organized. For us, keep your uniforms in your bag that you're carrying on with you, your carry-on, in case something happens to your luggage. We'll find out a way to get you some clothes, but we want to make sure you have a uniform because we can't replace that. Shoes, everything that you need. That's pretty much just how you travel. Keep up with the kids. It's smooth through the airport. You just got to keep an eye on them. Stay in line. Move through here, do this, find someone that's experienced, that's done this before, that knows what to do to help us navigate it. It's really not too bad. You just do a head count. It's kind of a slow process. It's already a slow process getting through the airport. It's worse when you have, 40 teenagers plus 5 coaches. Get your gate wait. Like I said, a lot of this time is just, the traveling is not too bad. It's just long. It's kind of tiresome. We would leave after school. A lot of kids would nap and sleep through portions of it. It's just kind of dragging. There's not a lot of stuff going on. It's not bad, I don't think, depending on how bad or how long your travel is. Typically going and traveling down there for us was never really terrible. They're excited to go, but they're kind of exhausted from the traveling. It kind of wears on them. And then, the park is its own thing. Just being to Disney World, like we've planned all this stuff out. For us, like, we've scheduled, maybe a bus to transfer us around. One year, I think we had like a shuttle bus that was taking us to all of our places because it's, obviously extremely difficult to move around when you only have 5 adults to drive 40 teenagers. And then, for us, like having drivers and stuff in school, that became a whole issue. Like, you had to be approved by the school and all this stuff, and it was like, it was going to become a whole headache. So for us, like we would go like practice at Top Gun or something like that. Stuff we have to figure out ahead of time. Calling gyms, scheduling practice hours. If we want to go practice, and typically we would want to try to go practice off the football field when we're down there because you want to have a chance to do all of your stunts and all of your tumbling. But I think they offer different options for that now. You practice on the mats in the parking lot, or I think over there at the practice arena or something like that. You can schedule gym time now, but didn't always used to be that way. But that's just, like I said, with all that stuff, that's just a whole nother added element that you have to do. If you're going to schedule all that practice time, all that stuff's got to be done in advance. That's getting done during that January. That's getting done during that hard time. You're organizing all that crap then. The bus, the travel arrangements, all that crap. On top of everything else, getting ready for nationals, putting on the final touches, working, living your life. What little of it that you have at this point, it's consumed by everything. This becomes a full-time gig around this time of the year. We got to go to the varsity meeting. We got to sit down there right when we get there and go over all their rules. The kids have to do one. We have our own, going over all this crap. It takes about an hour. It's just out in the middle of the day. You got to plan it, got to be there, have to be there. Have to go check in, get all your credentials so that you can go to the competition. And then you got to hope to God that these kids can keep up with theirs, because if they lose it, you're SOL. So most of the time we just hold it. Park hopper tickets, ID badges, everything, lanyard to get into nationals. We keep all that crap because if we give it to you, you're going to lose it. So we're just going to hold it until we know you need it, and then we'll give it to you. But, just another thing to keep up with. Florida is different. I think a lot of teams do it differently. Typically, we don't let them run around free until after nationals. That used to be the case. It just depends. For us, like, we would have like an organized day where we're all going to go. We're going to do something together as a team to go to Disney World. We're going to make it a point. This is what we've been working all year for. This is a chance for us to have a mini break. We deserve it. Let's have some fun, build some unity, some good times, get some good energy. That was part of our plan, part of our process. The parents and stuff would come. I had to stress some kids out, but it was part of us being a big group. It's important. We organize all that stuff, and most of the time it goes smooth. Like for us, we've been to Disney World so many times. So I could walk around Disney World better than I could walk around my house probably. You said that's one of the perks of going. We would talk with them every night, make sure that people are staying focused, because you don't want. The big problem is like when we go to nationals, it's the longest trip that we've had is the longest interaction these kids have been together. And some kids don't like each other. And sometimes when you have to be around people for an extended period of time, you find out that you don't like certain things that they're doing. I'm not saying that like kids are just fighting or off the walls reckless, but obviously you want to keep emotions in check. You want to make sure that we're focused on, we give them a chance to have fun. We're going to shift gears. We're going to be business, and cut stuff off like that. People seem kind of irritated with us, so we might separate them or give them a break or find ways to keep them apart from each other to kind of just give them a chance to decompress. Because sometimes it's really stressful. They've got the weight of nationals and all this stuff weighing on them. And, some kids are like doing schoolwork and stuff, and it's really high emotion. And you're close quarters with somebody, you don't have personal space, you don't have a chance to sit down by yourself. You're with someone all the time. Same thing with the coaches. I mean, it can be overwhelming. It's a lot. So you've got to help them navigate that. And you can't take that stuff personal. And sometimes kids are that way with you too. Like you have to be an adult about it, I guess. It's just, you have to manage all that. Because like I said, it's, when you get down to the end like that, like I remember feeling like there were days where I was like just barely on my feet. Like it was like every bit of energy that I had, like a zombie. I'm just moving because of will, because of habit, because of hunger, because you're pushing yourself just to fucking walk, let alone deal with everything that we're dealing with all the time. We do our practices, we do our stuff. We have our big emotional release. We've talked about that many times. Talk about the shift, the importance of the program, the importance of what we're doing, talking about the truth, the realistic, the statistics of everything that we've gone through. Make sure everybody stays focused. And then, you've got competition day, which is this whole other damn day. It's the same thing that you've done so many times with all the intensity and the pressure in the world. And, the night before is the worst night, I think. As a coach, it's the settling. It's like we're here, we're having that conversation, like we're ready. Like we've done all we can do. That's it's not that we've done all we can do. We've done all we've had time to do. Like we're out of time. This is it. Everything's, like I said, everything's time 10. And you're going through your process, everything that you've already had to do for every other thing before. Plus, you have to keep up with everybody on your team. Keep the motions. You need to be aware of these things. I don't know if other coaches are, but I was. We were. Not just me, both, but everywhere that I've been, these were things that we focused on. Controlling the emotion then. Controlling the focus. Making sure everybody's where they need to be. Right headspace. Go through that warm-up. Like I said, no matter what it is what it is. Talk to them when you get through the curtain, and then you got to go do your thing. You got to leave them by themselves. And, for us, like at that point, we're having conversation with each other a little bit, how, yeah, we'll win as good as we could, hey, we're nervous about this, there's nothing we can do about it. We're just talking about it, building up our own emotions, drumming ourselves up, looking for something to make ourselves feel good or saying if we're crazy or something like that. And then they come out and you're like, for me, I would sit there and like, when they'd get set, there'd be like an intensity build up. Like you're waiting for the boom. Like the hairs are standing up and you're waiting for a jump scare in a movie. There's like something that you're waiting on. Something negative. And then when the music would go, the first things in the air, I'm good. From there, I'm calm. I don't get up and show a lot of emotion. I keep generally the same face. I'll yell like, yeah, things are going well. And I don't get like overly... I do it the same way I practice. I don't change anything. If you're looking to find out how you're doing from watching me, you will never know. Because I'm just sitting there. I don't get too crazy. Everybody else does. Everybody else gets really rambunctious. I'm barely operating on autopilot. Most coaches are. We're just there. And this is what we've been here. We're hoping for this. Prelims goes, and then depending on how long we've got, reflecting on what just happened, for the coaches, we would, as soon as the performance is done, we get our deduction sheet. And if we know we've got a long wait time, we send the kids back. Maybe one of the assistant coaches will go with them. Usually, like the head coaches would say. So typically, like there was a year where I took the kids back. There was years where we stayed there because we didn't have like a big turnaround. All depends, going into it, what your plan is going to be. And then we're waiting for them to announce finals and get our actual score sheets, because they announce the teams for finals. You go to the desk, they give you we used to draw back then, which was a whole stressful thing. Now they give you the performance order, and you get your score sheet. And then we can go look at what our scores. They give you your individual score sheet, and then they give you a breakdown of what everybody in the division scored, so you know who's beating you where, what's doing that. And we would go, and if we had time, we would sit down and we'd talk about it. There'd be like a chance to reflect. Like, hey, what do we need to tell the kids to focus on? Or, we're getting an idea of how we're going to place and how we're going to compare, what we need to prepare for. Information for conversation, who's ahead of us, who's behind us. Is our cheer score low? Can we bring some more energy? What are some things that we can fix with a performance perspective? And realistically, where are we going to fall when this is all said and done? Or, that's kind of how we would look at it. And, we do that, kids are eating or whatever. We get together, kind of give them some feedback, what we want to give them. Now the scores just get out. Like, you can't avoid it. Like before they didn't used to just post preliminary round scores on, or they wouldn't do it quick enough that our kids could ever see it. Eventually they did, but we would give them whatever information we felt like was necessary. We usually didn't give them placement, just to keep them on their toes. But you can kind of, we were either a contender or we were going to win. That's how it was. We were always in contention. You might need a little bit of help, but fortunately enough, that's the way that the cookie always crumbled with us. And then we would talk about, what can we fix from that performance area? Like, hey, we need to be sharper. You need to really bring the energy, or you need to do this. Make sure your line's really clean here. Something. It's always small shit. That's what it is. It's the small crap. Because you can't fix anything that's big at this point. Go back over, go through the whole process. It's a little bit easier. I think the intensity is really high at this point. I mean, as a coach, I could always feel it. I was always thinking about it. I could feel it with the kids. It's kind of in the air too. Like I said, a lot of this is just about navigating. If someone was rough, had a rough round, you just encourage them. But it's sometimes, man, there's a lot. Because you just want to keep everything that's negative or everything that's going to negatively affect them away, whether that's a parent or some people argue with their parents all the time, and their parents are just right. Oh, you'll be fine, baby, blah, blah, blah. And that's not what their kid wants to hear. They have anxiety right now, like you're not making it better. Like there's a lot going on. You got to know how to navigate your team and how you navigate your individuals. That's stuff you learn throughout the season. And here you have to put it all on display. But for us, it's just kind of watching and interacting and us doing our thing and focusing on us and our circle and controlling everything that we can control. That's the goal at this point. Go through the same old warm-up. Go through that. Everything. Everything's the same as it was in preliminary round. It's just a little bit more intense. It's just a finality to it. You sit down. The king team comes out. You hit the play button. You watch the performance. Get your stuff. Go to the back. Watch it on the tape. And, when your team is going good, it's the best feeling in the world. Like I said, that's what you want is that hit. That's what you came here for. You get that, it's instant gratification. Instant. Win, lose, no matter what, you feel okay. It's a big burden off your chest. Huge celebration. Like I said, I think the performance is sometimes, the reaction to the performance is sometimes bigger than the reaction to the result. Especially from a coach perspective, because it's just relief. You want to win, but I think, if you've been around a long time, you have realistic expectations. Depending on how your performance goes, when you can address the score sheets, you can common sense, you can figure it out. Sometimes it's like, it's too close to tell, but most of the time, you have a pretty good idea where you could fall. And we would always talk about that. Like, that's the conversation that we're going to have after we watched everybody go. How do we think? We're looking at the scores that we had before, comparing performances. Where do you think we're going to fall? Have one last conversation with the kids and tell them what we think. I've been there for some good ones. Hey, we got a chance. Feel pretty comfortable. Be respectful. No matter what, you clap, you applaud. If they haven't called your name, you stay quiet. If they do call your name, you celebrate. If they have other people to call, you stay quiet and you clap and you support and you let people have their moment. That's a conversation we always have. Be respectful. I've been there when we've told them you're not going to win. I've been there and had to tell kids that I don't know where you're going to end up. I have been on the top of the mountain after some of those performances, and I have been at the absolute rock bottom at times. Some of the worst performances you'll ever see, I've been a part of one of them as a coach. And then, if it goes bad, you have to deal with that right there in the moment. And that's hard. If you have a bad performance, you don't have a hit, there's someone somewhere that you have to go and you have to take care of. Some kid needs you at that moment in some capacity, whether it's you or you making sure you find someone that kid needs to make sure that they're okay. For us, we always try to be protective of people too, because it's hard to put all this time in and get there to the end and something happened that you didn't want. And nobody intends to do that. Then they did try their best. It's not like they meant to make a mistake. Not everybody's gonna care or see it that way, but you have to. You have to protect them from other people or from their teammates or from themselves. Whatever they're thinking, whatever they're feeling, console them, be there for them. I've been there for those. Those suck, but I've been there for them. Never changed my tone. Never changed the way that I love and respect my teams. Never changed how thankful I am about the opportunities. For me, from there, whether it was good or bad, if it was good, obviously I felt great. But there was like a reflection process of, you know, obviously when it goes bad, I immediately start trying to figure out what went wrong, kind of ponder on it. It's really heavy, and then you wait to see kind of where it's going to fall. And even when it goes good, like there's a sense of relief, but now you kind of shift to how is this going to end up? Where are we going to fall? You do the awards, and it's what'd you come here for? If you get there, you're happy. If not, it sucks too. It's not as bad, if you're realistic, if you're prepared them, there were some years that I lost and it sucked hearing it, but it wasn't like it was a shocker. It wasn't like devastating. I didn't feel like it was a screw job or nothing like that. And I've won a few times when I didn't know it was going to happen. And there's some great moments, but it's the finality of it. If you've achieved, you don't have to win. If your goal was to get third, if your goal was to get fifth or 10 or just to get to finals, you can be happy. Your goal was just to hit. You can be happy. That you don't have to just win. There's a finality to that. You can be happy about what you accomplish. If you don't, then you have to do some reflection. And, our failures always resulted in one thing or another. We'd come back and have conversation, a little bit, just kind of reflecting on the day and maybe sprouting out like some baby ideas. And even if we won, we kind of celebrate and reflect and kind of, quick chit chat on who's returning, who's going. But it's a lot more celebratory, thinking about some stuff, what we learned for the day. We as the coaches would have like a really big reflection. And it's really a chance to kind of get everything out there and get in the air. And then obviously, like the next day is just the Disney day, the travel home, all that arrangement as a coach. Just either celebrate, have some fun. There's a little bit of time just to take a chance to get away from it for a second. Even though we're all together, the cheerleading stuff's done. It's a chance for us to have fun and just unwind a little bit. Enjoy our one free day in Florida. Enjoy our one day at Disney World. Keep up with the kids. Hey, let me know where you're going. Make sure there's an adult with you. Who's where. If you go to this park, text me and let me know when. I'd go to the park with the kids. I didn't give a shit. I'm not going to watch nobody else compete. We're going to Disney World. And a lot of kids would be with me all the time. That was the day after Nationals. It's like all that crap doesn't matter, man. It's just win or lose the day before. Like last year that I went, we got like 8th, 9th place. And the next morning, I was like, I'm getting up at 6 a.m. and I'm going over to Hollywood Studios. And I'm going to ride the Rise of the Resistance, that Star Wars ride. And boy, when I got up that morning, if there wasn't like 12 kids ready to go with me, they're like, we're doing it. And we all went. And we just lost like 12 hours prior, horrendously embarrassed. We didn't care. We're going to Disney World. We're going to have fun. We're going to ride this ride. We're going to have a great time. It's a chance to just kind of enjoy the people, enjoy the trip. Because no matter what, you've put in all this work. Have fun. This is your chance to reward or let the sadness go or bask in a great moment. It's the finality of it. When we would come home, we'd typically get on the plane, talk a little bit about the next year, talk about some recruiting stuff, kind of just general idea. We don't go too heavy into it. We're just having conversation. And then we take some time off. Now, we would still cheer games, but we're not doing practices or anything like that. We would do like an end of the year banquet. We would have awards and stuff like that. And it's just we would take during that break we'd have like that 4 weeks off before we go right back to where the story started. And during that time we're decompressing, talking about everything that we thought we've had time to reflect on, not just Nationals but the entire year. Kind of seeing the scope, put some stuff together, just kind of naturally, organically think about it, give you a chance to reset and breathe. And enjoy being a mom, being a dad. Spend some time with your kids. Go see a movie. Come home as soon as school's over with. Not have to hang out all day. just a chance to really just kind of let it unwind, kind of appreciate something, catch up on a lot of stuff. But all this stuff goes on. A lot of it's mental. And, most people don't ever have a clue. They don't ever think. I think they look I think they, like, especially in my case, I think sometimes people would look at me like I only saw winning and losing. I think I only judged myself by winning or losing. But I appreciated, there were times when we didn't win and I was still happy. It's that finality that comes in that reflection process. Do you have to win? Sometimes you do. Sometimes you don't. Depends on what your goals are. What's realistic? What's for you? What you have a chance to do? What did you decide to do? But if you feel like you've grown as a program, as a coach, if you've learned lessons, then you've had an opportunity to grow. Did you see growth in other people? What worked, what didn't? And it's a chance to either take a step back or change and alter, because you're always looking for ways to tinker and get better, and you're using your experiences. And even in that part where that time off, you are starting to shape who you're going to be based on your reflection, grow and evolve. How are you going to deal with situations? But like I said, the cheerleading stuff, as stressful as that is, that's not the bad stuff. Coming to practice, doing the competitions, that stuff's not bad. It's the paperwork, it's the planning, it's the organization, it's arguing with a 16-year-old who thinks that they're right, even though you've been doing this longer than they've been alive. It's a kid not turning in this form. It's a kid showing up late to practice constantly, or not telling you that they're not going to be there, or not organizing this, or not respecting you, doing stupid stuff, getting caught with alcohol, bringing drugs to school or something stupid. I'm ad-libbing at this point. I've never had anybody bring drugs to school that I'm aware of, so good job if you got away with that. I mean, it's just stupid. So I've argued with parents over stuff that was not true, or I've had a kid call me upset and tell me a story about how they feel about something, and I'm like, I don't understand how you emotionally got to this point. I don't understand how you rationally took what I thought, said, or did and made it into whatever you just talked to me about. But if we don't have that conversation, then they're always going to feel that way. But I have to deal with that. I have to address that. Or, two girls dating the same guy and they just found out about it and they're fighting and arguing. Now I got to deal with that because it's affecting my fucking team chemistry. Because both of you are fighting with each other and you're too stupid to realize that the boy that you guys are with knew all along, and you guys are fighting on who's going to have it. You might as well just both kick him to the curb because you're both stupid. It's different. It's shenanigans. And like I said, all that stuff is stressful. And I think when we pick back up here and we go into this 2018-2019 season, I think we're going to see, in my opinion, where I start having more problems like this, where these things that are not organically part of the way cheerleading is supposed to operate, things that people have to go outside and do and or cause, start to interfere and affect the way that things go into practice and add additional stress, add additional baggage, and affect it. Because when you're fighting all these things that don't make sense, like why am I having to hunt down a kid for a waiver form? Why am I having to beg this teacher to put in an assignment to get somebody in the grades in? Why do I have to do all these things when I'm here for the sport? If you're at the school, you're working there, but it's still, it's additional things that if they're doing what they're supposed to do and taking care of your grades and turning paperwork on time and coming to practice on time and being respectful and kind and courteous regardless of how you feel about somebody. Though I feel like those are prerequisites to being kind and respectful in life. When you don't do those things, it adds more problems. And then, like I said, the drama. If you have parents going crazy, if you have people not doing the fundraising, not adding the money, not telling you things, not keeping you informed, being disruptive, not giving 110%, causing problems, causing fights, being dramatic. There are coaches out here who suck. Don't get me wrong. There are coaches who are absolutely terrible at their job and don't deserve to ever work for anybody, anywhere, ever again. That is 100% true. But there are a lot of great people out there that are just frustrated. They're being tough because when they were soft, people ran over them. Because when they were soft, people did things that were not part of that organic flow of what you're supposed to do in a sport, that caused problems that they had to deal with. My coach is yelling at me, telling me I have to do this and I have to do that. That's because when he didn't yell at somebody, they did not do it, and it created a problem. That person did not get that skill. That person made a mistake. That person let everybody down around them. So they're going to hold them to that standard. My coach tells me that I have to be at practice all the time because there was years when people didn't come to practice and they didn't achieve what they wanted to. You know, if you have one of these good coaches, appreciate it. Not everybody does. You know, if you feel like you're butting heads with your coach, why don't you take a little bit of time and look at it from their eyes. Have a conversation with them. If you're a coach and you know you got an athlete that tell them. Just be open with them. Be honest. You don't have to tell them every single thing. It's not like they need to know about your personal life or anything. But like, I've got to take this extra time out of working my 40 hours a week or more at this job, being a mom, being a dad, owning my own business, doing this, doing that. And I've got softball games, and I got my kids' stuff I got to go to. I got plays I got to go to. We have a work brunch, and I have a family dinner. I've got all this stuff going on, and now I have to do this too. And you're creating a problem, and I had time set aside to fix this issue. But because you didn't do what you've done, or you've done this, and have those conversations. That's what you can tell them. You don't have to tell them everything that's going on in your life. You can be open with them. Find some common ground. There needs to be some level of relatability, and it's hard. It's hard for me. It was easier for me when I was younger to relate to some of these kids, but as I got older, it got more difficult. Same thing goes on with a coach. You know, once that generation passes me, once the norm of the way that we thought and we processed and the way that we did things changes, it was hard for me to be more relatable with people. So I know that that's sometimes an issue between the coach and the athlete. Relatability, understanding what your life is like and what their life is like and how they connect and flow. Even though your personal life should not be affected by what you do athletically, it is, because we're people. Everything is personal. Maybe not deeply personal, but everything affects an individual. Everything connects. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. This is very, passionate for me. It was just, this is a raw cut, unedited. I just let it rip. I think I'm pretty pleased with how it's turned out and how I've talked and how the flow. I have no script. I have no pegboard. I have no list, nothing. I am doing this 100% ad lib right here, right now. That's how passionate that this is to me. Like I said, if you are someone that has a great coach, please tell them that you love them and that you respect them and that you're so thankful for what they do, because this is me verbalizing what it goes through. The amount of time that actually goes into it is unbelievable. So be appreciative of that. And going forward, we're going to talk about some more individual topics like this. These blown up rants. I'm sure that they're going to come and go. I will continue my chronological order. I would like to get with more of my athletes and talk about some of their college years and what that was like, and really kind of open this and expand it some more. I hope that you guys continue to like and follow and subscribe me and share my content and help me grow. Right now we're struggling to grow. My TikTok videos are doing great. My views on the podcast are not fantastic. I'm going to keep pushing, keep working, keep grinding. And if you're out there, please do the same. NCAA is coming up here pretty soon. Excited for that. Brady competing with Navarro. So I got a kid, and Max is going to go down and do partner stunt. So I think my eyes will be on that, and we're building towards that. NCAA schools, you're probably getting ready, or you're probably in the middle of hell right now, getting ready for this run to Daytona. So thank you guys once again for listening. Like I said, follow, like, subscribe here on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all my stuff. Thank you guys so much for all your support. And I will see you guys next time on Memoirs of the Father. Thank you, and good night.